This is the Stones Gambling Hall cheating scandal. And Stones Gambling Hall had a problem. A problem named Mike Postle, a break-even poker player who suddenly became unstoppable on their live stream. A player who folded like a god, called like a psychic, and rarely got caught bluffing. A player whose magic only worked when the cameras were rolling and vanished the moment they were off. But here's the real problem. This wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. And it wasn't Mike acting alone. This was a system where hands were corrected midstream, where RFID data flowed to hidden devices, where a producer's panic edit exposed the cheat instead of hiding it. A system where the man in charge, Justin Caritis, dismantled oversight piece by piece, firing skeptics, silencing critics, and wearing a mic that wasn't on the inventory. And the problem? They almost got away with it. Today we're putting the pieces together. Not with rumors, but with the forensics they couldn't bury. The graphic glitches that proved real-time cheating, the stats that defied math, the mic that shouldn't exist. And by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how they pulled it off and why the courts failed to stop them. Before we dive in, I want to take you through this step by step, starting with the where, then the who, every key player, and finally the how, the smoking gun evidence. By breaking it down methodically, we'll see how the pieces fit together and why this wasn't just luck, but a calculated scam. Let's start with the casino, Stones Gambling Hall. The location was Citrus Heights, California. The live stream, Stones Live Poker. Security, there was no tech room security or oversight. Easy tampering with RFID data. The manager watched the live stream live. He was either complicit or criminally negligent. The tech room? No access control. Anyone could have tampered with the RFID system. Let's move on to the characters. Let's start with Mike Postle. His role was a poker player. Technical skills? He set up tech for the Dream Seat show. Opportunities and access? He was close friends with Justin Caritis and all the tech, and there was no security. Behavioral red flags. Crotch staring, phone between legs, perfect final action. An impact on the scandal? He was a direct cheater. Red flags? He was friends with Russ Hamilton, and he was previously accused of superusing online. Before Mike Postle was accused of cheating on Stones Live Poker, he was already tangled in a friendship with poker's dirtiest scammer. Remember the Ultimate Bet superuser scheme? And who was Mike Postle's bestie? None other than Russ Hamilton, the mastermind behind the God Mode hack that stole more than $50 million from players. Postle himself admitted that he was accused of being a bot and a super user online, which tracks, because Hamilton, his golf buddy and an Ultimate Bet consultant, literally rigged the game to see his opponent's cards. Ultimate Bet's own audit pinned $22 million in theft on Hamilton, who bragged on tape that he did take the money, and he's not trying to make it right. Even worse, Postle got a spot on Ultimate Bet's blackjack show thanks to Hamilton, which allegedly was funded by Hamilton's scheme. Now ask yourself, what are the odds that poker's most notorious cheating inner circle just happened to spawn another genius accused of seeing hole cards? Outside of Ultimate Bet, Mike Postle's own brother came on Stones Live Poker and admitted that Mike Postle used to scam and cheat as a child.
But one of my funnest things watching my brother grow up, if he'd always try to find an edge in everything. So growing up, we owned a roller rink and dance club. And so the roller rink, my dad.
Wow, that's what your dad. That's what your parents did. No
Yeah.
kidding.
So
Where? What city?
In Wisconsin.
Wow.
So it was fun. So we spent hours and hours at the roller rink.
Wow.
And so my dad had a lot of video games, and he had the little tickets booth and everything else. So my brother made a wheel. And on the wheel, he had different prizes, one square would be a small soda, the next would be popcorn, one would be a pizza, another one would be $5. There's always different things, and it was usually anywhere from 50 cents to $1 to spin the wheel. So my brother had the wheel perfectly lined up, and my brother put some quarters behind the wheel. So there was
what a cheat. Unbelievable.
So when you spun it, you would always get so close to the $5 bill, because the deal was
this sanctioned by your dad?
Oh, yeah. My dad was all like, my brother's like, This is what he said. He goes, well, the wheel just doesn't roll very well, so I got to put some weights on it to counterbalance it so it rolls well.
Yeah.
So most of the time when you roll, probably like 90% of the time, it always stop one away from the $5 bill. Oh, you were so close,
Man, better luck next time.
It'll be the worst prize ever. So my brother would win half the winnings, whatever he gave out. So my brother would, usually make like $30 or $40, from doing it.
What an angle shooter!
It was so fun. Yeah, if there's an angle for my brother to do it, he'll do it.
And his motives? He's just a lifetime scammer. On to Justin Karitis. His role was a Stones Live Poker manager. His technical skills? He oversaw the tech at Stones Live Poker. Opportunity and access? He had full access to live feed, equipment, and everything. Behavioral red flags, gaslighting, aligning with Postle. He oversaw hand changes. He covered up issues. The techs all reported to Justin, and he pushed out all skeptics. Impact on the scandal? He was a direct cheater, an accomplice, and a beneficiary. Red flags? He was fired from a previous casino for a tournament chip scheme. His motives? Probably money, but he seems like a lifetime scammer. Next is Lance. He was the executive producer and designer, according to his LinkedIn, of Stones Live Poker. His technical skills? A bachelor's degree in applied computer science. Opportunity? He had full access to hole cards, RFID, hardware, and all the software. Behavioral red flags? After he was fired, they took a break from cheating, and he was very defensive after the scandal. Impact on the scandal? Potential accomplice and beneficiary. Red flags? He has no previous history of any cheating that I know of, and his motives? Unknown, but probably money. Moving on to Taylor. His role was tech at Stones Live Poker. He did live action tracking, and he eventually moved up to executive producer and designer. His technical skills were just managing the hardware and software at Stones Live Poker. His opportunity was full access to hole cards, RFID, hardware, software, everything. Behavioral red flags? He covered up odd plays by Mike Postle, and he manipulated hands. Impact on the scandal? Potential accomplice. Red flags? He edited cards in real time when Mike's plays were too obvious. His motives? Probably money. And lastly, since he's a part of the story, Justin Kelly, aka Train. His role was a commentator. His technical skills, he does have a tech degree, he's set up live streams before, and he did update tech stuff for Stones Live Poker. Opportunity, everyone had full access to all the tech and equipment and RFID technology because there was no security in the tech room. Behavioral red flags, he didn't question any odd hands, and he was silent after the scandal. Impact on the scandal? Unknown. Red flags? He was roommates with Justin Karitis in the past, and his motives, the only ones I could come up with was maybe he left his IT job, maybe he needed some money. And lastly, I wanted to include the possibility of other tech or commentators being involved. Unknown technical skills, but everyone had all access to all of the RFID information, the computers, the whole card access, because there was no security. The impact on the scandal was they could have been turning a blind eye for some hush money or maybe even helped cover it up. And red flags, just basically ignoring all impossible hands. And the motives were probably some money. After dissecting the Stones live streams, analyzing Mike Postle's impossibly lucky plays, and connecting the dots between his behavior and the live production setup, here are a few theories about how this cheating could have gone down. Hypothesis number 1. Mike Postle didn't cheat. He was just a psychic poker god. How it could have happened? Mike had superhuman intuition, a heater for the ages, or insider knowledge of players' tendencies. No tech needed, just luck and ego. The flaws of this hypothesis? RFID evidence. Cards were manually changed on stream. Taylor corrected Mike's hands when his plays were too suspicious. Statistically impossible. 100% perfect final decisions over hundreds of hours of play is not done by any professional poker player, no matter how good they are. And off-stream mediocrity. Mike was a break-even player outside of Stones Live. Let's talk about this hypothesis. Imagine you're the best poker player in the world who rarely makes an incorrect final decision in any hand you play, and someone accuses you of cheating. What do? You say, "I'm not cheating. Here's the proof." You jump on podcasts, break down your hands, and explain your genius in detail. You take every chance to play on other streams, crush them, and shut the doubters up for good. You dominate off-stream games, become the cash game king of the world, and laugh as whales line up to donate to you. If you're that good, proving it is easy. So why doesn't Mike Postle do any of that? Why refuse Doug Polk's free roll offer?
And then I am going to propose something to you right now. Assuming that players are willing. How about you come on down to the lodge? We'll provide the bankroll. I'll provide the bankroll. And we'll do a Mike Postle challenge at the lodge where he gets to play. Any winnings, he wins entirely. Total free roll for Mike Postle.
Okay.
And we'll put in a few hundred hours of play. You can play versus all of the 1, 3, 2, 5 players at the lodge. These are not players that... I should be careful how I phrase this. You're going to do just... If you can handle your own at Stone's Gambling Hall, you can do just fine down here at the lodge. We'll make sure to track everything, and it's done fairly, assuming the players want to play with Mike Postle. And let's just see if he can run it back. And if he can get anywhere close to that win rate, I'm willing to eat my own words as he rakes in my money. But you know what's going to happen, Joey? You know what's going to happen, Joey?
What's going to happen?
He's not going to win anywhere close to what he won before. He's instead going to not take me up on this or lose or win small. He's not going to be the greatest poker player of all time. And I do hope he brings his hat because there's going to be nothing in that crotch to help him at the lodge. I'll tell you that right now.
Why dodge Joey Ingram's and Doug Polk's offer to come onto a podcast to discuss his hands?
I would love to do a one-on-one in-person interview where we're going to go through things. We're going to talk about some hands. We're going to talk about some spots. We're going to talk about some statistics. We're going to get to the bottom of what you actually won.
Why not discuss his god-tier plays to the world? If he's this unbeatable and he's this much of a genius, he could charge infinite amounts for coaching. He would be steamrolling tournaments at the World Series of Poker and WPT. And in cash games, he'd be putting pros like Garrett Adelstein to shame. And why doesn't he do any of this? Because if he won by being just that good, he wouldn't run from the spotlight. He'd thrive in it. And Mike? He vanished like a ghost when the only place he could win shut down. Hypothesis number 2. Mike Postle cheated alone. How it could have happened. He could have exploited the RFID systems. Stone's Live Poker used RFID-enabled cards, and the cards are scanned and broadcast on a slight delay. If he could have intercepted this data, he may have known the hole cards. He could have used an RFID reader, such as a keychain in his case, like he had on the table often, and he could have picked up the signals from unshielded cards before they were folded or mucked. One of the biggest weaknesses of this hypothesis is that the RFID system usually encrypts the data, and Mike Postle was just at a distance too far from the majority of his opponents to be able to scan their cards. Another option is a Wi-Fi attack. If Stone's Wi-Fi was poorly secured, Mike Postle could have easily exploited the vulnerability of the streaming software to access the raw live feed, and Stone's comically used the public Wi-Fi for the live stream. Let's discuss the flaws of hypothesis number 2. The technical sophistication required to hack a secured live stream is immense. This would require advanced knowledge of networking, reverse engineering of streaming software, or even exploiting unpatched vulnerabilities. The player skill paradox. Top hackers do not equate to top poker players. The overlap between elite hackers and elite poker players is tiny, if not non-existent. Most hackers lack the poker skill to exploit poker games without being detected, and most poker pros lack the tech skills to hack. The historical precedent. To date, there have been no known solo cases of cheating in live poker. Past poker cheating scandals involve accomplices. Mike often spoke about knowing the confidential information that Justin received from commentators who complained to Justin about the cheating, alluding to Justin being his accomplice. He would chip dump after commentators complained and then tip them in hopes of appealing to their kindness. What a nice guy Postle is. He couldn't possibly be cheating. In conclusion, the odds of a poker player solo hacking a professional live stream to cheat are vanishingly low. It's far more probable that the cheater, Mike Postle, had help from production staff. Hypothesis number 3. Mike Postle and Justin Coraitis were the only ones cheating together. How it could have happened? Justin, as the manager of Stone's Live Poker, was watching the live stream live and would simply text Mike the card data in real time. When Mike's plays were too blatant, Justin directed text to correct his cards on stream. And Justin did everything in his power to cover it up. Let's discuss the glaring flaws of hypothesis number 3. The tech compliance. Would Taylor and Lance just obey Justin without question and change Mike's cards? Didn't Justin have the poker strategy and knowledge to recognize when Mike's plays needed fixing? And the mic mystery. Justin's hidden lapel mic, it wasn't logged by Stones or the DOJ, and Justin admitted to real-time coordination with tech. The final odds estimate, it's plausible but incomplete. Changing cards in real time requires at least one tech accomplice. Hypothesis number 4, Mike Postle, Justin Caritas, and the tech crew involvement, including Taylor and Lance. How it could have happened? Taylor, who was operating the RFID system, edited Mike's cards live, just to mask his impossible calls. Lance, who was the tech lead during his time, may have helped early on, but he was fired abruptly before the World Series of Poker in 2019. During a game where the card readers were having issues, Lance came up to Mike Postle and spoke only to him. The only flaws I could find with hypothesis number 4 would be, why would Lance and Taylor risk their careers for Mike Postle? And there was no evidence of them receiving any payments, but everything else makes sense. Final odds estimate is pretty high. There was likely at least a partial involvement from both. Taylor's edits are well documented, and Lance was seen going to Mike when there were RFID errors. Hypothesis number 5, the full conspiracy. Justin, Mike, tech, commentary, everybody was at least involved or got paid to turn a blind eye. How it could have happened. Justin controlled the RFID access. He gaslit critics and wore a hidden mic to feed Mike data or control the techs, or both. The tech, Taylor and Lance, edited cards in real time when Mike's plays were too obvious. Commentary, Train, and others downplayed suspicions, calling Mike a genius, and posting memes. Mike used his phone to get real-time data during the live stream. He'd put his phone between his legs and stare at his crotch during hands. Mike also used a bone-conducting headset to receive signals when phones were banned. Justin put up a promotional wall to block the view of himself monitoring the live stream live. The mics were hot in the booth. Justin liked to eavesdrop on commentators post-stream. The selective glitches that only Mike's hand were corrected, and Justin's obsession with the dollar amount won. Let's examine Justin's intense focus on the dollar amounts. He claims to have reviewed every stream, meticulously tracking wins and losses, yet he completely overlooks the suspicious behavior. Like the crotch staring and the statistically improbable plays just didn't happen. This raises serious questions. Is he genuinely unaware of these red flags, or is he deliberately ignoring them because he was involved? What's more telling is his refusal to share his data. If his analysis is legitimate, why keep it hidden? I believe there's a deeper reason. My theory? Nearly everyone involved in that live stream was skimming from the prize pool. They all took a cut. But after 18 months of cheating, Justin still has little to show for it. His fixation on the money suggests frustration. He was a part of the scam, but didn't walk away with much. That's why he's so hyper-focused on the dollar amounts. It wasn't just about cheating. It was about getting paid. And in the end, he still came up short. Although this hypothesis is the most likely scenario for me, I do believe that a big flaw was that there were too many people involved. And when you have a lot of people, it's hard to keep a secret. The final odds estimate of hypothesis number 5 is that this is the most plausible. This explains all the anomalies. It explains the commentary, it explains Justin's gaslighting, it explains the cards editing in real time, and it explains Justin's hyper-focus on money because there wasn't much after everyone was paid out. Hypothesis number 6, Mike Postle and Taylor acted together alone. How it could have happened? Taylor fed Mike the cards to his phone in real time, and he edited the cards in real time when Mike's plays got out of line. The flaws? Justin Caritas needs to be the absolute worst and most incompetent poker room manager in the entire world. A normal poker room manager would remove the player and investigate. And it doesn't explain Justin's focus on Mike's hands and Mike's cash outs and every other anomaly. The final odds estimate? It's plausible but incomplete. The probability of Mike doing this with just Taylor is about as low as Mike doing it himself. Now let's examine the most compelling evidence. And this is just a fraction of what exists. Covering all 18 months of suspicious activity would require a documentary-length video. But these examples represent the most obvious violations. The crotch licking. We'll begin with Mike Postle's phone placement. He consistently positioned his device between his legs while staring intently at his crotch during play. This wasn't an isolated incident. It was a repeated behavior that defied normal poker player behavior. Game after game, the same phone placement, the same unnatural fixation to his crotch. This pattern didn't exist before July of 2018. Then suddenly, it became his consistent routine at the table. The timing is undeniable, and the behavior speaks for itself. Card editing. How the RFID system proves real-time cheating. Let's examine the evidence from the RFID system used in the Stones livestream and why the infamous 8-6 hand that got changed to a 9-8 proves cheating beyond a reasonable doubt. First, let's go back and talk about normal card errors. This was a live stream. Mistakes were bound to happen. But here's the key point. The tech staff couldn't and didn't know about errors unless the hand was actually shown or the dealer told them about the hand. Let's talk about Harlan's hand, where the card reader picked up the wrong cards. The tech team had no clue that there was an error until he turned over his cards. That's how it always worked. Either the dealer had to announce the correct hand verbally, or the overhead camera had to capture the actual cards. No physical cards shown? That means there's no way for the tech to know that there was an error. This makes what happened with Postle's hand very interesting. Purposeful card editing. Although there were a few examples, the infamous 8-6 to 9-8 hand was the biggest glaring one. Taylor claimed that there was a card reading error.
What? Oh, the graphics are wrong?
But here's the problem. They couldn't have known Postle's real cards unless he turned them over. In this video, you can hear Taylor saying that the graphics are wrong on the delay, but he made the actual change to the cards in real time after T-Bone folded. And Postle never turned his hand over. The timing was also suspicious. The card change happened right after Postle's opponent folded. That timing wasn't random. It was the only way that they could pretend that there was a card reading error. They had to cover up the suspicious play, but couldn't claim a card reading error until Mike didn't show his cards, which is why it was changed after both players folded face down. They were waiting to make sure that nobody showed. Milner, the Poker GFX creator, put it bluntly. This blows my mind. There's no legitimate reason to change cards like that. The system is secure unless insiders abuse the access, which clearly happened. Milner stated that he can't think of any legitimate way that anyone in tech would have known the hole cards were wrong or what they really might have been at the point in time that the change was made. So you have to wonder about the motivation behind the action. The card edits suggest panic. Taylor realized that Mike was playing too out of line and tried to fix it. The only way the card changes work was if Postle didn't show his actual cards. The RFID system didn't fail. It caught them. Over an 18-month period, Mike Postle did something no legitimate poker player could replicate. He made impossibly precise final decisions. Take the full house versus full house hand, the kind of scenario where every competent poker player loses their entire stack. The play is brutally simple. When you hold the second nut on the river, you shove or you check shove. The chance of your opponent having a stronger hand is so remote that just calling is outright unimaginable. Yet Postle flat called because he knew he was losing, and a fold would have looked way too obvious, although calling was just as bad in my opinion. Even the commentators were left stumbling in disbelief.
What in the...
What the fuck?
See.
Wow. Is there anybody better than Mike right now?
I guess he's thinking, I mean, it's 8, 9, 10, seeing 6,
Obviously,
7,
yeah, like-
Jack, Queen.
Well, obviously, he's not worried about the straights. You know, he has a boat,
Right,
but
he's
obviously he's
sorry.
worrying about like like maybe 9, 10, something like that, because that's obviously out there.
What?
But
Yeah, I'm trying to. I was trying to figure
holy
out what he was. Yeah. Straights
Yeah.
don't make any sense. Like you said, he has
Fat
a boat.
train.
But what I'm trying to figure out what would make him just call there.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you
He's a mutant. He's a mutant.
That guy's-
That's what it is.
I mean, honestly, he's been playing for the last like month at a level that's. I mean, he's always a very good player, right? We all know this, but he's playing at like an extra high level over this last like month and a half, 2 months. It's just been kind of crazy. Just super setup spots where you just think it's just kind of standard, and even not even like kind of a good play still to get like to lose it all, especially like at this stack depth.
I just want to ask him,
Yeah.
like,
And then to like not lose it. Holy crap.
I don't know. I'm still like, I'm kind of speechless.
Yeah, same here.
That just happened like that.
In another hand where his opponent was betting into him again on the river, Mike shoves all in with just ace high to get his opponent off of his bluff. He previously just called with the second nuts, but this time he shoves with ace high. And why? Because he knew his opponent was bluffing and couldn't call. Unfortunately for Mike, Rich caught wind of Mike's reputation and called him light. They had to go to showdown, and there was no way for Taylor to change his hands this time. Rich was one of the few people who was able to beat Mike while he was in God mode, but very few people would have called with that ace high.
Very close. Yes, send it.
Ace high.
You are a sick man.
Say you put me on ace already?
Yeah.
What you got?
Wowie, wow.
Postle often got frustrated when the card readers were having issues. Not a single player at the table knew if their cards were reading or not, except for Mike Postle.
What's interesting to me about this hand is that Postle is visibly upset with the situation, the cards. He's constantly trying to get them to read again and trying to get them to pick up into the reader, which is weird because he doesn't do this in any of his other hands. In fact, in most of these hands, Mike is very stoic until the decision on the river, in which case he oftentimes will laugh as he makes a decision. But not in this case. In this one, he is frantically trying to rescan his cards in the middle of the hand.
Unable to replicate results. Mike cheated for 18 months. But remember that Justin Caritis went to Vegas to work for the World Series of Poker in 2019. Lance also got fired from the stream, so Mike didn't play the whole summer, except for in my game. He also didn't cheat that summer. So on June 15th in 2019, Mike, without his God mode capabilities, played in my game. His phone was comfortably on the table, his hat was casually backwards, and he played like a normal person. The interesting thing about this hand is that he called the raise from seat 1, and so did most of the table. The interesting thing is that nobody else hit the flop. If he was in God mode, he would have known that no one hit the flop, and he could have stolen the pot. But because he didn't have his cheating buddy in town, he folded. He also lost that night and played very average. This wasn't just cheating. It was a cascade of institutional failures, any one of which could have stopped Mike Postle in his tracks. Yet at every level, the system broke down. Stone's gambling hall's leadership ignored glaring red flags. Their executives and upper management provided zero oversight, allowing a live poker stream to operate with no safeguards, no accountability, and no real growth strategy. This wasn't negligence, it was willful blindness. Justin Caritis failed at his most basic job, protecting the game. He staffed the production with people either too inexperienced to spot the cheating or complicit enough to stay silent. He refused to invest in professional commentary. He avoided promoting the stream and ensured it stayed small, exactly the kind of environment where cheating could thrive unnoticed. Casino security somehow missed the obvious. With cameras covering every angle, how did no one question Postle's unnatural phone placement, his crotch-staring habit, or the fact that he played like a psychic? Their inaction wasn't just lazy, it was enabling. The DOJ's investigation was shockingly half-hearted. They didn't need a detective, just one competent poker player to review the hands, yet they couldn't be bothered. The courts hid behind a technicality, an archaic California law, one that my own lawyer didn't anticipate, and it shielded Stones from facing consequences, letting them off with a slap on the wrist. And now, Postle remains free, still scamming, still harassing critics, still proving that if enough people look the other way, cheating pays. The scandal wasn't inevitable, it was allowed, and it will probably happen again if it hasn't already. After examining all of the evidence, Hypothesis 5 emerges as the most plausible explanation. This wasn't one rogue cheater, but a coordinated effort involving multiple people, some actively complicit, others paid to ignore what they saw. Mike Postle, Justin Caritis, and Taylor were at the heart of the scam. Postle executed the cheating, Caritas ensured the production turned a blind eye and kept rumors at bay, and Taylor manipulated the RFID system to cover their tracks. Justin Kelly's reactions on stream seemed sincere until they didn't. His silence when I said that things didn't look right speaks volumes. At best, he suspected and ignored it. At worst, he was paid to turn a blind eye. Lance, with his access and experience, likely played a role, whether through deliberate assistance or willful ignorance. The rest of the commentary team lacked the expertise to recognize Postle's statistically impossible play. And why would they? The stream was deliberately kept small, underfunded, and unscrutinized, a perfect environment for fraud. Postle's visible irritation when card readers malfunctioned or pots slipped away is telling. He got so used to God mode that when he couldn't see the cards, he got frustrated, because for 18 months, that's exactly what the system gave him. The aftermath? There was no justice, no accountability, just a trail of silenced critics and a cheater who remains free to explore the next game. And until the legal and poker world learn from this, the next Postle is already out there, refining the playbook. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of the road. God mode is now complete. If you have any burning questions or thoughts, drop them in the comments and I'll tackle them in the upcoming God mode Q&A. Until then, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and remember, the truth doesn't fold.